Hey, you guys, welcome to the weekly collective consciousness reading for July 10th through the 16th. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit late uploading this. I apologize, and I'm actually going to jump. Ooh, didn't mean to hit the table, but I am going to just jump right into things. You guys know what to do. Please like this video. Please subscribe to my channel. Let me straighten these all out for you guys. And any comments, questions, concerns, just put them down below. And obviously, I always take feedback, so it's always welcomed. Okay, guys, let's begin. Oh yeah, guys, I threw in a new deck here. I'm not using an Angel deck. I'm using an Ascended Masters deck. I'm just feeling a lot more connected to the Ascended Masters lately. It's just an intuitive call, right? Okay, so, all right, let's jump right into it, guys. We have Need and we have Poised. Okay, so this Poised to me feels like we have everything under control. We have like a good outlook on the future. What a really great card to get first step out. Definitely feeling like we know basically know what direction that we want to go into. So there's a lot more clarity and there's a lot more grace. I definitely do feel like this feeling of maybe having forgiven ourselves, or we're being a little bit more easy on ourselves, like that kind of thing. And that's really great. And we need more of that, right? And so I definitely do feel like it's something that is happening now, but this week, carry that into this week and really, like you have your can I say shit together? You have your shit together. That's what it feels like. Like you're starting to feel like you have more of that, like more of your ducks in a row, that kind of thing. All right, I think you guys understand that, but that's great. And I think it's coming up in the need, and the fact that I'm feeling that you guys already kind of started this is don't stop this week, okay? So don't stop trying to, get your life together and that kind of thing. Continue going, continue getting your ducks in a row, because like I said, I think it's coming up for a reason, obviously, and so just don't stop, continue doing what you're doing. All right, action needed. What do we need to do? All right, detective, great powers of observation and intuition, desire to seek out the truth. Okay, so this is about finding something out, being a detective, being the truth seeker in that way, right? And so this to me feels like a lot of you guys are figuring out a mystery. I'm definitely getting, this is pretty strong. We're kind of figuring out what happened to something. And it could be something as like simple as like you guys get on a topic and you go down, I don't know about you guys, but I go down rabbit holes a lot. a lot. I do find myself a true seeker as well. I resonate with that detective archetype a lot of times in my life. You don't even want to know what I'm going down rabbit holes about these days, but it could just be something like as simple as that, or figuring out in your life, like maybe there's like a mystery that kind of needs to be solved. This could be something like also your cat keeps throwing up, but you don't know why, and so you kind of have to like figure out like what is the thing that's triggering this cat to vomit. I don't know, something like that. So guys, I'm gonna be done with the examples for that. I think you guys could put two and two together, but I definitely do feel like it's like figuring out a mystery this week, which is interesting, and I do feel like you kind of get to the bottom of it, or move to a new layer of understanding. I will say that. So I think it's interesting that it's next to the getting all your ducks in a row, because you're kind of figuring things out, and so this might be connected in that way as well. All right, what is the issue here this week? Balance, career, and home life. Yeah, that is an issue of balance. Okay, so this is about, pretty straightforward on this card. They're not always literal because I do use oracle cards, but this is pretty much saying like you got to balance work and home. Okay, so, and I definitely do feel like it's going to be a juggling act this week. So pay attention to that, guys. Try to find balance as much as you possibly can. And that's actually pretty straightforward. So we'll move on to the next one. We have surprise, high priest, intend and create. Okay, so this is about the masculine energy, but also too at the same time, putting your intentions out there, which to me is more feminine energy. And so I definitely do feel like, mixing those together, getting the high priest is kind of like coming back to this first card where it's kind of like you're getting your ducks in a row. And so this is saying like, you're actually acting out on your intentions. That's how I'm interpreting this. Continue keeping your intentions in mind, but continuing also to take action on the intentions. And the fact that it's under surprise makes me feel like you'll be getting things done that maybe you have maybe procrastinated on, or feel like you could never get them done or something like that. So I think you'll be surprised by your own initiative, is a good way to put it. Yeah, there's really not too much more to say there. But yeah, it's a positive thing in my mind. Okay, we have the challenge, come to the edge. Okay, so this is about, even though there's not a 9 on the card, and 9 usually symbolizes more endings, this is like finishing things up. Well, unfinished symphonies more so like that. This is like getting ready to kind of jump off the cliff kind of situation. So it's like getting to the very end. And so this might, looking at this row, everything that's like kind of going on, there's something that kind of needs to be closed up, or something that needs to be ended in a way. And that's the challenge. Guys, why do people get into spirituality in the first place? Like, yes, you can give many, many complicated answers, but the truth is it's very, very hard to let go and detach and end things, okay? So a lot of times, and also going through massive change that we can't handle, whether that is, the death of a loved one, whether that's even a birth. That's a huge change. Think about all of the things that happen in our lives that really push us into more of our spiritual selves, connecting more on a soul level. And so I don't feel like it's that big. I just gave 2 examples that were like really, really big things in our life that are huge changes. And I know this isn't on the change, but I'm saying, like, endings are a challenge. They are a change, and it's very challenging. So I definitely do feel like we're creeping more towards the edge, but we're not necessarily jumping off the cliff this week, which is okay. So when something big happens, I think a lot of people think that they're supposed to just like rip it off like a Band-Aid. And yes, there are some times in our life where that is applicable, and that does make sense, like just jumping off the cliff, but it doesn't necessarily mean that this week. And so it's okay if we're just moving there energetically or emotionally or spiritually, like moving to that place and having issues with that and having issues processing this ending. It's totally fine, and that's what Spirit is really coming through and saying. But it does feel like that's going to be the most challenging thing, is maybe coming to the conclusion that something does have to end. Maybe you're at the very beginning where you were saying, like, oh my God, like maybe you're listening to this and you're saying, like, well, I don't know what has to come to an end, in my life here. And maybe towards the end of the week, you start actually understanding what does. And so, like I said, it doesn't mean that I mean, some of you, maybe it could be something that you've known for like a really long time, like if you're, very intuitive on that aspect. But like I said, it feels like for a lot of us, it's kind of like the beginning of really figuring it out, because I have to tell you, with this card here, with the getting our stuff together, becoming more clear about what we need, and going forward with that and feeling more in control of our lives, then some things will naturally fall off, in my opinion. So it all makes sense in that way. So be easy on yourselves, guys. Like I said, I definitely felt like some self-compassion, self-forgiveness kind of coming through with this card too. So keep that in mind when you're in a challenging situation of like trying to, let something go, or beginning to process letting something go. Okay. Focus. We have mentor, passing on wisdom and refining a student's character. Okay, so what should we focus on? So focusing on mentoring. So it definitely does feel like we're doing the output, we're doing the giving. So it's definitely a good week to, some of you guys are going to be mentoring people that are going through the same thing as you, and you're just like a little bit more ahead of them, whether that's healing from illness, whether that's, if you started a business and you're doing something a particular way and somebody asked you how to do something, or, it could be anything at all. It definitely does feel like mentoring somebody that is less knowledgeable or has less wisdom than you. Usually I would say, it's not coming through necessarily where it's like, oh, you need to have boundaries around this, but obviously always have boundaries. If you can't energetically do it, again, I know most of you guys are empaths that come to me. Trust me, I understand if when you want to help and you literally can't because you're just so emotionally exhausted or energetically exhausted or spiritually exhausted, whatever you want to say. So I totally get that, but it definitely feels like coming up in this reading energetically we're going to be okay with it. Okay, but again, have boundaries, but it doesn't feel like the other person will violate your boundaries. I will say that. So it feels like it's really positive and it's in alignment of having you mentor somebody, again, with less wisdom, less knowledge, that kind of thing. And I feel like it would be very positive for you because I definitely do feel like this helping energy for most of you guys. So again, it does feel positive in that way. Reflect, drink more water. Oh my gosh, this is so for me. This resonates with me, guys. Yes, so this is really straightforward. As you're noticing, these Ascended Masters cards are pretty straightforward. So reflect on, it doesn't have to be super literal, but water, I was just thinking that this morning because, guys, I'm saying it resonates with me because all weekend I was feeling really, that's why I'm late on putting this video out, is because I was feeling really, really horrible and I couldn't figure it out. That was the right detective. That came a little early for me. But figuring out like why I felt so crappy, and I realized that I wasn't drinking as much water, and yesterday I really drank a ton of water last night, and I woke up feeling great. So and this morning I was thinking, like, humans can go so long without food. I mean, I know people that have fasted for months, and people don't really understand that, but you really can go, without food. But you can't go without water. Okay, so reflect. So the way that if we're talking symbolism here, what can you not go without, right? Reflect on your basic survival needs. That's how I'm kind of seeing it. So if it's not water, what are your basic, go to your Maslow's hierarchy of needs. For everybody that studies psychology out there and knows what I'm talking about. If you don't, Google it. What are your needs? Are they being met? Reflect on that, okay? Responsibilities, what do we have here? Shaman, trust in higher forces. Okay, so the only thing that we, again, pay your bills, people, but be responsible for your children, that kind of thing. But really the responsibilities here are trust, okay? And that is not an easy one. That's another reason people come to spirituality, right? Because they cannot trust the change that is happening, the challenging things that are happening, the things that are really difficult to deal with in our lives. So the only responsibility this week is really just figuring out, from a spiritual perspective, how to trust that everything is unfolding exactly the way that it's intended to. So trust, and that's not easy, guys. So, it might sound simple, but it's not easy. Money and finances, and I also put career in here, exchanging gifts. Okay, so this is a little bit of a give-take situation. So it definitely does feel like it's a little bit like the trader card that we get in this Angels and Ancestors deck, but it does feel more like not trading necessarily services, but it does feel like giving and receiving back. So I will say, as far as like money and finances go, the more you put out, the more you get back, okay? So if you guys have been, and I've been in both situations, right? It's kind of like one of my toxic traits where I get like really, really frugal and I'm afraid to spend money and I hoard the money. And then, on the opposite end of that spectrum, I get so tight with it, right? And so frugal with it for months and months. And then I just go crazy and go spending, right? And so this is kind of what it's saying, because obviously the giving and the taking is about balance. And then we also have, we have issues of balance this week with career and home life. So this could be part of it too. So if you've been really frugal this week, it's asking you to kind of balance it out. So I wouldn't be surprised if you are on one end of the spectrum, that it is starting to balance out, or it can go in the other direction and you can go in the opposite, right? But this does feel like we are balancing out a little bit more. So if you've been overspending, you're reeling it back in. If you've been really frugal and tight and hoarding your money, you might do a little bit extra spending this week. So what we put out, we get back, basically, is what it's saying about money and finances. So I say this is really positive, right? Really positive. And the same thing with career. If you're looking at it from a career perspective, it definitely does feel like, what you give out, what you will get back. So basically, if you feel like you don't want to necessarily take on extra work, it won't really necessarily come back with a reward or something like that. This is a week where it has a high potential of actually doing that. Again, use your own intuition with it, but it feels like anything you will put out, you will get back. So keep that in mind, okay? So that's really good. I'm really happy about that with finances. Change, we have gossip, awakens consideration for the feelings of others, honoring trust. Okay, so there's that trust word again. So, okay, so this means what's changing and how could this actually be a semi-positive thing? Because when we hear gossip, obviously, we think of it more in the shadow most times, but this coming up in the light attribute, coming upright, to me feels like putting a stop to gossip almost, or not believing everything you hear. What else? Finding evidence, doing your own fact checking. Basically, everything the opposite of what gossip is. I don't know if I'm explaining it really well, but it definitely does feel like, like the opposite of spreading information that's not necessarily, that isn't necessarily true. And so the fact that it's coming through change makes me feel like we're kind of going from the opposite, where we are starting to think a little bit more critically in that way and not necessarily passing on. I know the word misinformation is kind of weird these days, and everybody kind of has like their different perspective on it, which I appreciate everybody's different perspective on it. But it definitely does feel like we're kind of not perpetuating guys, sorry, I have to say misinformation. Another word is not coming to mind, but we're not perpetuating the misinformation. So take that as it will, guys. For a lot of you guys will definitely, it will manifest differently for you, and it will mean something differently to a lot of you guys. But it definitely does feel like that's the change, where, you're changing, right? And you're, like, I almost want to say like a little bit more accepting in that way. So you guys will see how it manifests for you this week. All right, let's look at our relationship. So far, not a lot of relationship stuff has come up, okay? So it definitely does feel like it's more, just up here in this focus, this focus with the mentor. That's the only thing that I see kind of like relationship-wise. So let's see what Friends has. It says you can do it, Archangel Michael. Okay, so yeah, so it definitely does feel like, to me, this feels like encouraging your friends, making sure that they know that they can do it, and being like an empowering person in their lives. And I feel like, because I'm getting all this kind of like balance energy too, where it definitely does feel like what you do to them, they'll get back. So I definitely do feel like it's like a week of like cheering on your friends, being their cheerleader, them being your cheerleader, like that kind of thing, which is great. So it looks like a really good week for friendships. That could only, solidify and enhance your relationships, right? So let's look at romantic connection. We have bask in joy and light, summer. Perfect. Okay, so also a good week for our romantic connections. Great, guys. So definitely things that are, the word light is kind of popping out to me. So that tells me like things are going to be a little bit light this week. So definitely having fun with your partner. If you're single and dating, definitely go out and have some fun. It just feels like a really good week to meet new people. It just feels very joyful and lighthearted, and we really need that these days. And so I just, there's not really too much more to say about that, but definitely feels like just like a really great week for our romantic connections. What's important? So we got a lot of stuff that's important this week, but let's see what this says. Message in a bottle. So this is about communication, okay? So yeah, so our communication is important. I would say that's definitely key for all of our relationships, and so here's more of the relationship section down here. So it is important to communicate effectively, intentionally, which again, we are becoming a lot more intentional with that high priest up there. But it's just important. So I would say here that is coming up under the important is just like watch your words, or watch how you communicate. I think it's going to be important, especially when we're having, like, it doesn't necessarily feel like I said, I feel like our friend group, our romantic connections are really good. It might be something to do with this mentor situation, where, how could we communicate in a way that is effective and can really land, especially if we're mentoring somebody. So it might have something to do with that, so keep in mind. But again, it'll be different for everybody. Health and wellness. What do we got going on? Okay, we have guide, but it's shadow. It says places financial gain and control over imparting spiritual insight. Okay, guys, so this means, all right, so there is something that I have learned with my health issues the last couple of years. It is, well, I've learned a lot, but one thing I've learned is, and I know this is kind of coming from a little bit of a privileged standpoint, but it's like you don't want to skimp on things that have to do with your health and wellness, okay? And so that's what I'm getting from this, because it's saying like don't skimp. Okay, so something tells me this is a week of us being a little bit triggered with money, okay? Because the people that are frugal and we're kind of afraid to spend, you guys know who you are, and I could put myself in that category, like I said, sometimes, is we might want to spend a little bit more this week on the things that have to do with health and wellness, okay? The truth is, and I promise you, especially if you live in America, you will pay eventually more in the long run, because when you get sick, it gets expensive, okay? So I will say that. And I don't just mean financial, by the way. I mean quality of life, obviously, your emotional health, like all of those different things. So you have to take care of what you need to take care of and be your own guide this week when it comes to health and wellness, and not put the financial gain over the other things that you need, okay? So guys, if you need a small vacation, which I feel like a lot of you don't, because I didn't get like any breaks kind of cards here, which I usually sometimes do. There's definitely a few of them in the deck here. Maybe that's not a good example, but if you guys, okay, so I used the example with the detective about figuring out, what is my cat, why does my cat keep throwing up? Is there something wrong here? It's like maybe you have to buy 5 different kinds of cat food to figure it out, and do a test and see which one that they're allergic to, or their stomach can't handle, or something like that. So obviously you'd be spending more, right? Instead of, pushing it aside, and, saying like, oh, I'm not going to test the food, or something like that. So basically what I'm trying to say, and then in the long run, when they keep throwing up or they keep getting sicker and sicker, you have to take them to the vet, which costs a lot of money. So what I'm trying to say is don't skimp out financially on what you may need health and wellness wise, okay? And your pets too, obviously. So just pay attention to what you need this week, and don't necessarily pay attention. And again, before I say this, I know it's tough out there with the economy and inflation and all of that kinds of stuff. I totally understand. But what you put out, you will get back, okay? I promise you. And I'm not talking about spending thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. It's just spending a little bit more for your health, okay? You guys, I hope you understand that, and I hope that doesn't feel too preachy, but I'm telling you that's what I'm getting. It's coming through very, very clearly, okay? And then overall outcome, guys, let's take a look. Detach from drama. Okay, that's a really great one to end with. I love these Ascended Masters cards. They're pretty straight to the point, aren't they? So detach from drama. So it's funny, I'm not getting too much drama here, especially, it is the thing with the gossip is we're kind of like we're turning things around, which is really great. And so that to me does feel like we're detaching from the drama as well. But that's really the only thing that I feel. But again, it'll manifest differently for a lot of you guys, because like I said, I feel like all of our relationships are really, really good this week, especially in our friendship groups here. So it doesn't necessarily feel like it's going to be drama in our friend group or anything, but it does feel like maybe our attachment to drama. I don't know about you guys, but I've been watching like a lot of content since I've been unwell, and so sometimes I notice when I'm really not connected, I go towards more, let's just say it, trash TV. And by the way, I'm not trashing anybody for watching trash TV. Like, I think it's a good escape, like every once in a while for sure. But I think for me, like sometimes I feel like I'm getting too much into that area. and it starts to not feel good, right? And so that could how it could be manifesting for me. So this will be different for a lot of you guys, but I definitely do feel like we're moving to more of a place of more positivity and feeling like we have things in control, coming from that first card here where we feel really poised, we feel really like we can make the next move very gracefully, like we kind of feel like we finally have things under control in a way, and that's really positive. And it could be because we're kind of I know in the last couple of weeks we've been talking about detaching from energy vampires and things like that. So that could be part of it. This could just be where we're starting to kind of feel the fruits of our labor from the last few weeks. So I see this as a really great week. I try to be honest with you guys. I see a lot of positives, honestly. I think it's going to be a really great week. It makes me really, really happy that we have a good week coming up, and I hope you guys resonate with this. And again, let me know in the comments if it does, or any questions, concerns, or anything like that. All right, guys, have a wonderful week, okay?